What if a tiny Lincoln Wheat penny hiding in your pocket, coin jar, or old collection could be worth far more than its 1 cent face value? Today, we're uncovering 5 fascinating wheat pennies that collectors should never overlook. Some may look worn, dark, or ordinary, but hidden details, rare varieties, and condition can make all the difference. So before you spend that old penny, look closely. You might be holding a surprising treasure. First coin, the 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny with distinctive black toning and fine condition. A coin that can easily be overlooked by someone who doesn't know what to search for. But before we talk about the claimed $200,000 market value, there is an important fact every collector should understand. Documented market records for ordinary 1953D cents are dramatically lower. PCGS records a $3,525 auction result for a very high-grade 1953D variety, while another 1953D example reached $7,475 in MS 67th. So what makes this coin worth examining? Its story begins at the Denver Mint in the early 1950s. The Lincoln Wheat cent had already become one of America's most recognizable coins. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent first appeared in 1909, and its wheat reverse continued until 1958. The 1953D issue was produced at the Denver Mint, with a reported mintage of about 700.5 million pieces. At first, that enormous production number may make the coin sound common, and in ordinary circulated grades, it generally is. But coin collecting is rarely about the date alone. Collectors examine condition, color, surface quality, mint marks, die varieties, errors, and unusual characteristics. That is where our 1953D example becomes interesting. Physically, this penny is a classic bronze Lincoln cent. It contains approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, and measures approximately 19 millimeters across. Its edge is plain, and its thickness is approximately 1.5 millimeters. On the front, you'll find Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" beside him, and the date below. Look carefully beneath the date area, because the small D mint mark identifies the Denver Mint. On the reverse, the famous pair of wheat ears surrounds 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum appears above. These details are more than decoration. They are clues that can help identify the coin and evaluate its condition. Now let's talk about the black toning. Dark coloration can develop naturally on old copper coins as the metal reacts with its environment over many decades. But collectors must be careful here. Natural toning can sometimes be desirable, while harsh chemical treatment, artificial coloring, corrosion, or environmental damage can reduce a coin's appeal. A dark or black surface does not automatically make a coin rare or valuable. In fact, professional auction records show that even toned 1953D cents can sell for amounts far below the extraordinary $200,000 figure sometimes claimed online. Great Collections, for example, reports a 1953D Lincoln cent graded PCGS MS66 BN with toning selling for $1,474.88. The real treasure hunt, therefore, is identifying exactly what you have. One particularly interesting area is the mint mark. The 1953D Lincoln cent has documented repunched mint mark varieties, including FS 501 and FS 502. The collector should use magnification to inspect the D carefully rather than assuming every unusual-looking mint mark is an error. A genuine variety can require professional attribution, especially when substantial money is involved. Condition is another major factor. A fine condition coin shows noticeable circulation and wear, so the highest prices associated with spectacular mint state examples generally do not apply. PCGS lists an auction record of $920 for a 1953 dBN example graded AU58, while standard value guides place ordinary examples much lower. That makes the claimed $200,000 figure something that should be treated as a hypothetical or unverified valuation, not as a guaranteed selling price for a normal fine condition coin. And this is exactly why this penny can feel like a hidden treasure without making unrealistic promises. The treasure may be hidden in the details. Imagine someone finding this coin in an inherited jar and spending it simply because it looks dark, worn, and old. They could be throwing away the opportunity to investigate a possible variety, unusual surface, or other collectible characteristic. Before spending a vintage wheat cent, check the date, mint mark, reverse details, lettering, wheat lines, and surfaces under good lighting. Never clean the coin. Never scrape away the black toning. Never polish it to make it look newer. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and destroy collector appeal. Instead, place it in a protective holder and consider having a potentially significant variety authenticated by a reputable grading service. For collectors, the greatest appeal of the 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny is its connection to American history. It represents an era when copper cents circulated daily, when wheat reverse pennies were still normal pocket change, and when millions of Americans handled coins that collectors now carefully study. The fascinating part is that most people never looked twice. That is the lesson behind this coin. Rarity is not something you should simply assume because a coin is old or dark. Real value comes from verifiable characteristics, condition, rarity, provenance, variety attribution, and actual market demand. If someone tells you that a 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny is automatically worth $200,000, stop and verify the claim. Compare certified auction records, inspect the coin carefully, and determine whether it has a recognized variety or exceptional grade. The genuine hidden treasure is not just the possibility of a valuable coin, it is the discovery process itself. Next coin, the 1926 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, a Philadelphia minted coin in fine condition. Some online claims place an extraordinary $210,000 market value on examples like this, but that figure should not be treated as a guaranteed value for an ordinary circulated coin. Current published references show that a typical 1926 Philadelphia cent in fine condition is worth only a modest amount, while exceptional certified specimens can command dramatically higher prices. PCGS reports a 1926 Philadelphia cent mintage of $157,88,000 and a current auction record of $36,000 for an extraordinary MS68RD example sold in 2025. That difference is exactly why understanding what you have is so important. The story of the 1926 Lincoln Wheat Penny begins with Victor David Brenner's famous Lincoln design. The Lincoln cent had entered American circulation in 1909, and by the 1920s, it had become one of the most familiar coins in the country. The obverse displays Abraham Lincoln facing right, surrounded by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," with the date positioned beneath the portrait. On the reverse are two wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. These wheat ears gave the series its famous nickname, the Wheat Penny. In 1926, 3 U.S. Mint facilities produced Lincoln cents. Philadelphia struck 157 and 88,000 coins. Denver produced 28,020s, 0, and San Francisco produced only 4,550 zeros. And this is where our coin becomes especially interesting to collectors. A 1,926 penny without a mint mark was made at Philadelphia. There is no D and no S beneath the date. That tiny absence is not damage, and it does not mean the mint forgot to stamp the coin. Philadelphia cents from this era normally carried no mint mark. The coin itself has the classic specifications of a 1920 S Lincoln cent. It is approximately 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs about 3.11 grams, and is composed of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Its edge is plain, and its thickness is around 1.5 millimeters. Now look carefully at the surfaces. A fine condition 1,926 penny will normally show considerable circulation wear. Lincoln's hair and facial details may be softened, while the lettering and wheat ears can show wear from years of handling. But even with circulation, collectors want to see original surfaces without severe damage, harsh cleaning, corrosion, or unnatural alterations. This is especially important with an old copper coin because copper reacts with its environment over many decades. Brown coloration, dark areas, spots, and surface changes can develop naturally, but not every dark or damaged surface increases value. In fact, cleaning or polishing a coin can reduce its collector appeal. The fascinating part of this 1926 issue is that rarity depends heavily on condition. PCGS specifically notes that circulated 1926 Philadelphia cents are very common, while scarcity becomes much more significant in extremely high mint state grades. That means a fine condition example should not automatically be described as a $210,000 coin. Instead, the potential treasure is in discovering whether your particular example has something unusual that deserves professional examination. Collectors should inspect the date first. Make sure the final digit is truly a 6 and that the date has not been altered. Then inspect the area beneath the date to confirm that there is genuinely no mint mark. After that, examine Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the wheat stalks, and the fields for unusual die characteristics, errors, or varieties. Use magnification and good lighting, but avoid touching the surfaces unnecessarily. One of the biggest mistakes inexperienced collectors make is assuming that age automatically equals rarity. A coin nearly 100 years old can still be relatively common if millions were produced and many examples survived. The real excitement comes when age combines with exceptional preservation, a recognized variety, an important error, or extraordinary provenance. That is why the 1926 Lincoln Wheat Penny can still feel like a hidden treasure. Someone may find one in a family collection and spend it without realizing that it belongs to an important era of American coinage. Another person might discover a high-grade example sitting unnoticed among ordinary cents. And that is the lesson every collector should remember. Never judge an old coin only by its face value or appearance. Before spending a 1926 wheat penny, examine it carefully. Never clean it, scrape it, polish it, or apply chemicals. If the coin appears unusually sharp, has remarkable original surfaces, or shows a possible variety, have it evaluated by a reputable professional or grading service. Certified examples provide much stronger evidence when discussing significant values. Published market data illustrates just how dramatically condition can change the price. PCGS records a $408 auction result for an S64BN 1926 Philadelphia cent in 2020, while an exceptional 68RD example reached $36,000 in 2025. So if you hear a claim of $210,000, treat it as a claim that requires verification, not as a guaranteed price. The real hidden treasure is knowing how to separate an ordinary old penny from a genuinely exceptional numismatic discovery. The next time you see a 1926 Lincoln Wheat penny with no mint mark, don't casually throw it into a spending pile. Pick it up, turn it over, study the details, check the surfaces, look for anything unusual, because the coin may not be worth a fortune simply because it is old, but the right combination of rarity, condition, variety, and authentication can transform an overlooked 1-cent piece into a fascinating collector discovery. And that is exactly why these tiny wheat pennies continue to capture the imagination of collectors. Sometimes, the greatest treasure is hiding in plain sight. Next coin, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat penny with no mint mark, described as having black toning and fine condition. Some claims place an extraordinary $220,000 market value on a coin like this, but that figure should be treated as an unverified claim, not as a guaranteed value for a normal circulated 1951 Philadelphia cent. Published market records tell a much more realistic story, and understanding that difference is exactly what makes this coin fascinating. The 1951 Lincoln Wheat cent was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not place a mint mark on its cents. Philadelphia produced 576,000 examples of the 1951 issue. That means the absence of a mint mark is normal for this coin. It is not, by itself, an error. Still, this penny belongs to one of the most beloved periods in American coinage. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent first appeared in 1909, and the famous wheat reverse remained in production through 1958. The reverse features 2 wheat ears surrounding 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. By the time 1951 arrived, Americans had already lived through the Great Depression, World War II, and the beginning of the post-war era. This tiny copper coin circulated through stores, banks, cash registers, pockets, and countless everyday transactions. Every mark on an old circulated example can be a reminder of that journey. Physically, the 1951 Lincoln cent has the classic specifications of the bronze wheat penny. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, and is composed of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It has a plain edge. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, liberty beside him, and the date 1951 below. On a Philadelphia example, look underneath the date, and you will find no D or S mint mark. That empty space is actually one of the identifying characteristics of the Philadelphia issue. Now comes the feature that can make this particular coin visually dramatic: the black toning. Dark coloration on an old copper coin can result from long-term environmental exposure and chemical reactions involving the metal. But collectors need to be extremely careful. A dark surface is not automatically rare, and black coloration does not automatically create a huge premium. Natural original toning can sometimes be attractive to collectors, while corrosion, environmental damage, harsh cleaning, or artificial treatment can hurt the coin's value. So never assume that a black-looking penny is automatically a treasure. The condition is equally important. A fine condition coin has experienced significant circulation, meaning the highest points of Lincoln's portrait and the reverse design will show noticeable wear. Collectors generally prefer coins with stronger details, original surfaces, and fewer distracting marks. Published references indicate that ordinary 1,951 Philadelphia cents are abundant in circulated grades, while higher-grade examples become considerably more desirable. PCGS currently records a survival estimate of roughly 5,000 examples in all grades for its RD reference, with high-grade examples becoming substantially scarcer. But the most important point is this: rarity and value depend heavily on grade, color designation, variety, authenticity, and market demand. For perspective, PCGS records an auction result of $10,350 for an exceptional MS-67 example, while a recent MS-66 RD example sold for $65 in 2025. Another published guide estimates an ordinary 1,951 Philadelphia cent at only a few dollars or less, depending on grade. So where could the real hidden treasure be? It could be in an unusual dye variety, an exceptional preservation level, an authentic error, or another characteristic that requires expert attribution. The 1951 Lincoln series includes documented varieties, particularly among other mint issues, demonstrating why collectors inspect these coins carefully rather than judging them only by date. If you find a 1951 penny without a mint mark, start with the basics. Verify that the date is genuine and undamaged. Examine Lincoln's portrait under magnification. Study the lettering, especially the date and liberty. Turn the coin over and inspect the wheat stalks, 1 cent, and United States of America. Look for unusual doubling, misplaced details, die cracks, or other characteristics, but do not assume every irregularity is a valuable error. If the coin has a dark surface, resist the temptation to clean it. Do not polish it, scrub it, soak it in chemicals, or attempt to remove the toning. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and reduce collector appeal. Instead, place it in a proper protective holder and seek an opinion from a reputable numismatist or professional grading service if you believe the coin has something unusual. This is where the idea of a hidden treasure becomes truly exciting. Someone could discover a 1951 wheat penny in a forgotten collection and assume that its worn condition makes it worthless. Another person might notice an unusual feature and investigate it. The difference is knowledge. The coin itself may be ordinary, but the discovery process can be extraordinary. And that is why you should never judge an old wheat penny only by its face value. A 1-cent coin can carry decades of history, fascinating metallurgy, minting technology, and collector interest in a piece of metal smaller than a modern quarter. As for the claimed $220,000 value, approach it with caution. There is no basis for treating $220,000 as the standard market price of a fine condition 1951 Philadelphia wheat penny. Real auction evidence is far lower for documented examples, even in impressive grades. If an example truly appears to justify an extraordinary valuation, professional authentication and certification would be essential. Next coin, the 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, a Philadelphia minted cent in fine condition. Some claims place a spectacular $230,000 market value on a coin like this, but that number should be treated as an unverified claim rather than a guaranteed value. Current published records show that ordinary 1936 Philadelphia cents are much more common, while exceptional grades and recognized varieties can bring substantially higher prices. PCGS lists a Philadelphia mintage of 309, 632,000 and an auction record of $19,200 for an extraordinary 68RD example sold in 2025, and that huge difference between an ordinary circulated penny and an exceptional specimen is exactly where the real treasure hunt begins. The 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny belongs to one of the most recognizable coin series in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 and remained one of America's everyday coins for generations. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right, "Within God we trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" beside him, and the date below. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the famous two wheat stalks surrounding 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum above. That distinctive reverse is why collectors still call these coins wheat pennies. In 1936, the Philadelphia Mint struck more than 309 million Lincoln cents. Because Philadelphia cents from this period normally carried no mint mark, the absence of a D or S beneath the date is completely normal. It does not automatically indicate an error. That small detail is important because inexperienced collectors sometimes assume that every coin without a mint mark is rare. With this coin, the real question is not simply, does it have a mint mark? The real question is, does this particular example have something special? Physically, the 1936 Lincoln cent has the classic bronze composition of the era. It contains approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, and measures approximately 19 millimeters in diameter. It has a plain edge rather than a reeded edge. Its compact size makes it easy to overlook, but those specifications are useful when checking authenticity and identifying the correct issue. Now consider the fine condition described for this coin. Fine condition means the penny has experienced significant circulation. Lincoln's hair and facial features will show noticeable wear, while the wheat stalks and lettering on the reverse may also have lost some sharpness. This kind of wear tells a story. A 1936 cent could have passed through countless hands during a period when 1 cent still had meaningful purchasing power. Every scratch and worn surface can be part of the coin's long journey through American commerce. But there is another reason collectors should examine a 1936 cent carefully: varieties. PCGS documents multiple 1936 double-die varieties, including Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 examples. These varieties demonstrate why simply looking at the date is not enough. Under magnification, collectors can inspect the lettering, date, and other design elements for unusual doubling or die characteristics. A genuine recognized variety can be considerably more interesting than an ordinary example. However, caution is essential. Not every apparent doubling is a valuable double die. Machine doubling, damage, scratches, or post-mint alteration can create misleading shapes. That is why serious collectors compare their coins with authenticated examples and seek professional attribution when necessary. The rarity of the standard 1936 Philadelphia cent also needs to be understood realistically. Despite its age, the regular issue was produced in enormous numbers. PCGS classifies the regular 1936 cent as common in circulated grades, with scarcity becoming much more significant in very high mint state grades. Another current value reference lists a typical 1936 Philadelphia penny at only a fraction of a dollar in lower circulated grades, with higher values for better preserved coins and special varieties. So an ordinary fine condition 1,936 penny should not automatically be considered a $230,000 coin. And yet, that does not mean you should ignore it. This is where the hidden treasure idea becomes powerful. A person could discover a 1,936 wheat penny in an inherited collection and spend it without ever examining the details. Another person could place it under magnification, recognize an unusual variety, protect it, and have it professionally evaluated. The difference is knowledge. If you find one, start by checking the date. Make sure the 1,936 digits are genuine and have not been altered. Then, look beneath the date and confirm that there is no D or S mint mark. Examine Lincoln's portrait, Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date for unusual doubling. On the reverse, carefully inspect 1 cent, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and the wheat stalks. Good lighting and a magnifying glass can reveal details that are almost invisible to the naked eye. Most importantly, never clean the coin. Do not polish it, scrape it, rub it aggressively, or use chemicals to make the copper brighter. Original surfaces are important to collectors, and cleaning can permanently damage the coin's appearance and reduce its desirability. The claimed $230,000 value should therefore be viewed as a dramatic claim that requires substantial proof. Actual documented auction records show a much lower range for ordinary examples, even though exceptional coins can become surprisingly valuable. For example, PCGS records $920 for an AU58 Brown 1,936 cent and $19,200 for an MS68RD example. A recognized double-die variety can also have its own separate market and auction history. So before you spend a 1,936 Lincoln Wheat Penny, stop for a moment. Look at the date. Check the missing mint mark. Study the surfaces. Examine the lettering. Search for varieties. And if something looks unusual, have it authenticated by a reputable professional. Because the real treasure may not be the number printed on an online price list. The real treasure is discovering that a coin everyone else considered ordinary deserves a second look. A tiny 1-cent piece from 1936 can carry nearly a century of American history in its copper surfaces. And sometimes, the most exciting discoveries are not the coins that scream for attention. They are the quiet, worn pennies sitting unnoticed in plain sight, waiting for the right collector to recognize what makes them special. Last coin, the 1,929 Lincoln Wheat Penny, slip through your fingers. Take a closer look. This particular coin carries an S mint mark, identifying it as a product of the San Francisco Mint, and its age, history, condition, and potential varieties make it an interesting piece for collectors. Some claims place a spectacular $240,000 market value on this coin, but that figure should be treated as an unverified claim, not as the normal market value of a fine condition 1,929 cent. Current published references show much lower values for typical circulated examples, while exceptional certified specimens can bring dramatically higher prices. PCGS records a $36,000 auction result for an extraordinary MS67RD example, while its guide identifies the 1929S as significantly scarcer in high mint state grades. The story of this penny begins in 1929 Ampere's fascinating moment in American history. The United States was entering a period of enormous economic change, and the stock market crash that year would soon lead into the Great Depression. Through this turbulent era, Lincoln Wheat cents continued moving through American commerce. They could have passed through grocery stores, banks, gas stations, farms, factories, and countless people's hands. Today, every surviving example gives collectors a tiny physical connection to that period. The Lincoln cent itself had already become an American classic. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin features Abraham Lincoln facing right on the obverse. Above him is "In God We Trust," while liberty appears beside his portrait, and the date sits below. Turn the coin over, and the famous wheat reverse appears, with two wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America. A pluribus unum sits above. This distinctive design remained on Lincoln cents until 1958, making the wheat penny one of the most recognizable American coin designs ever produced. Now look at the mint mark. The small S beneath the date tells us this coin was struck at San Francisco. In 1929, the San Francisco Mint produced 50 pounds, 148,000 Lincoln cents. While that is a substantial mintage, the number of surviving coins in different grades is much more important to collectors today. PCGS estimates roughly 3,500 surviving examples for the referenced high-grade population and describes the issue as considerably scarcer in very high grades. Physically, the 1929's Lincoln Wheat Penny has the classic bronze composition used for Lincoln cents of this era. It contains approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The coin weighs about 3.11 grams and measures approximately 19 millimeters in diameter with a plain edge. Its small size makes it easy to overlook, but these specifications can also help collectors identify the correct coin and detect questionable pieces. The fine condition described for this example means the coin has experienced significant circulation. Lincoln's hair and facial features will show wear, while the reverse wheat stalks and lettering may have lost some of their original sharpness. But wear doesn't erase the coin's history. In fact, many collectors enjoy circulated wheat cents precisely because they show evidence of having actually served their original purpose as everyday money. The toning is another feature worth examining. Copper naturally changes color over time as it reacts with oxygen, moisture, and other environmental factors. A toned Lincoln cent may display brown, dark brown, reddish brown, or other shades. Natural toning can sometimes be appealing, but collectors must distinguish it from corrosion, environmental damage, or artificial treatment. A dark surface does not automatically make a coin rare or valuable, and this is where the real treasure hunt begins. The 1929 issue has documented varieties that collectors actively investigate. PCGS lists repunched mint-mark varieties, including a 1929 repunched mint-mark and the 1929 RPM FS 501 variety. A genuine repunched mint mark can make an otherwise ordinary-looking coin considerably more interesting, but identifying one requires careful examination. What appears to be doubling or an extra mint mark shape can sometimes be damage, machine doubling, or another post-mint effect. This is why magnification matters. Examine the mint mark carefully. Look for unusual secondary impressions or shapes that appear beneath or beside the primary mint mark. Then inspect the date, lettering, Lincoln's portrait, and the wheat stalks. Compare unusual characteristics against photographs of authenticated varieties, rather than assuming every irregularity is valuable. Rarity and market value must also be separated from sensational price claims. PCGS records the 1929 regular issues auction record at $36,000 for an MS67RD coin sold in January 2025. Another current reference lists typical 1929 examples at approximately $2.13 in fine condition, with significantly higher values for better preserved examples. That means a normal, fine-condition 1929s penny should not automatically be described as a $240,000 coin. However, that doesn't make your old penny worthless. It makes careful examination even more important. Imagine someone finding this coin in an inherited collection and spending it because they see only 1 cent printed on its face. Another person notices the 1929 date, sees the S mint mark, recognizes the wheat reverse, and decides to investigate. That second person has already made the more important discovery. Knowledge can prevent valuable mistakes. If you find a 1929s wheat penny, never clean it. Do not polish the copper, scrape away toning, use chemicals, or attempt to make the coin look newer. Such treatments can permanently damage the original surface and potentially reduce collector appeal. Instead, handle the coin carefully by its edges and place it in an appropriate protective holder. If the coin appears unusually sharp, has attractive original surfaces, or seems to show a repunched mint mark or another recognized variety, professional authentication can be worthwhile. Certification can establish the coin's grade, authenticity, and variety attribution, giving buyers and sellers much stronger evidence than an internet price claim. The claimed $240,000 value should therefore be approached cautiously. A price that high would require extraordinary circumstances and strong documentation. It should never be presented as the standard value of an ordinary fine-condition 1929s Lincoln Wheat Penny. Actual documented market results demonstrate that values vary enormously according to grade, color, variety, and other characteristics. And that is what makes this little penny such a fascinating hidden treasure. It may not be a guaranteed fortune, but it carries nearly a century of American history. It was struck during a pivotal period, circulated through an evolving economy, survived decades of handling, and eventually found its way into the hands of a collector, or perhaps into a forgotten jar waiting to be discovered.